Let's talk about something that's been floating around for decades. Alright, lately I've seen comments and videos of people bringing up the fact that when they were younger and how it managed to flow into real life. Many said they were afraid of Michael Jackson. This always confused, and someone rubbed me the wrong way as to why someone would be afraid of someone who, in all honesty, is far from that. So, why did some people find Michael Jackson scary? Because honestly, the reasons are way more complicated than just his appearance. A lot of it came from media, misunderstanding, and straight-up storytelling choices. Because when you strip away the rumors, the jokes, and the tabloid covers, what you're left with isn't a monster. It's a misunderstood artist. 1. His appearance became a story. One of the most uncomfortable truths about why people found Michael Jackson scary is this: the world witnessed his physical changes in real time, without context, empathy, or pause. Most people are allowed to age privately. Most celebrities evolve slowly, behind publicists, stylists, and carefully curated images. Michael Jackson did not. From childhood onward, his face, body, and identity were treated as public property. Michael entered the spotlight before he could form a stable sense of self. The Jackson 5 era cemented a visual image of him as youthful, dark-skinned, wide-eyed, approachable. That image froze in the public imagination. But Michael didn't get to change naturally the way everyone else does. He changed under a microscope. Every haircut, every pound lost, every facial shift became a headline. One of the most misunderstood aspects of Michael's appearance was his skin. Michael had vitiligo, a medical condition that causes loss of pigmentation. This wasn't speculation. He spoke about it publicly, and it was confirmed after his death. But in a society deeply entangled with race, his changing skin tone was weaponized. Instead of compassion, people asked, why is he turning white? Does he hate being black? Is this deliberate? These questions weren't just ignorant, they were cruel. The reality was that Michael was trying to manage a condition using makeup, lighting, and later medical treatments to even out his appearance. What the public saw as something unnatural was actually someone trying to survive relentless scrutiny. Michael did undergo multiple cosmetic surgeries, there's no denying that. But context matters. Michael suffered a nasal injury early in his career, faced constant criticism of his looks, grew up being told his nose was too big, lived with immense pressure to meet impossible beauty standards. For someone whose image was their livelihood, control over appearance became a coping mechanism. Each change may have made sense to him in the moment, but to the public, viewing those changes years apart, the transformation felt drastic. And when transformation lacks explanation, it becomes unsettling. By the late 80s and 90s, Michael wasn't just dressing as himself, he was crafting a visual identity. Heavy eyeliner, sharp contours, structured jackets, high-contrast makeup. This wasn't casual grooming, it was performance. Michael was borrowing from silent film stars, Broadway, fantasy archetypes, European royalty imagery. But again, casual viewers didn't see the references. They just saw someone who didn't look normal. And society often reacts harshly to people who refuse to look ordinary. Another key factor: few people didn't see him gradually. They'd see Michael in 1984, then not again until 1991, then again in 1999, then again in 2003. Each reappearance felt like a visual shock. The brain doesn't register slow change when there are long gaps, it registers contrast. So instead of seeing evolution, people saw before and after. And the bigger the contrast, the stronger the reaction. At its core, the fear wasn't really about Michael. It was about discomfort with visible change, confusion around race and identity, unease with androgyny, fear of someone who didn't age correctly or predictably. Michael didn't fit neatly into familiar categories. And when people can't categorize someone, they often label them as strange or scary. What makes this especially painful is that Michael wasn't trying to provoke fear. He was trying to heal protect himself, control how the world saw him, create beauty in a world that constantly criticized him. The same changes people feared were often responses to the very pressure they helped create. And when appearance becomes the only story people tell about someone, it becomes easy to ignore the human being underneath, which is exactly what happened to Michael Jackson. 2. The media didn't just report, they caricatured. The media didn't just report on Michael Jackson. They turned him into a myth. If Michael Jackson's changing appearance made people uncomfortable, the media made sure that discomfort turned into fear, ridicule, and suspicion. By the late 1980s and throughout the 1990s, journalism around Michael Jackson stopped being about facts and started being about spectacle. And once the media decides someone is a spectacle, reality becomes optional. At his peak, Michael Jackson was the most famous person on Earth. That level of fame creates a problem for media outlets. How do you keep the story interesting when someone has already reached the top? The answer, in Michael's case, was sensationalism. Stories about his music or philanthropy didn't sell as well as stories that made him seem bizarre. So the focus shifted. British tabloids coined the nickname Wacko Jacko, and American outlets followed suit. That label did something powerful. It reduced a complex human being to a punchline. It signaled to the public how they were supposed to see him. It made mockery socially acceptable. Once a nickname like that sticks, every action is interpreted through it. Normal behavior becomes strange. Private behavior becomes suspicious. Rumors become assumed truths. Some of the most famous stories about Michael Jackson were never proven, or were outright false. But they were repeated so often they became cultural facts. Stories like sleeping in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber to live forever, attempting to buy the elephant man's bones, being obsessed with medical procedures beyond reason. These stories were rarely challenged, rarely corrected, and endlessly recycled. And here's the key point. People don't remember retractions, they remember headlines. The media didn't just use words, they used imagery. Photos of Michael were often taken mid-blink or mid-expression, shot under harsh lighting, over-contrasted, cropped and/or edited to remove context. These images subtly told viewers, something is wrong here. The audience didn't consciously think, this photo is manipulative. They just felt unsettled, and feelings stick longer than facts. Once the public began reacting with discomfort or mockery, the media doubled down. Because reaction meant clicks, sales, ratings. So stories became more extreme, more speculative, more dehumanizing. Michael's humanity became secondary to the narrative built around him. At some point, he stopped being a person and became a character. Michael rarely gave candid, long-form interviews. He was guarded, shy, and increasingly withdrawn. This silence created a vacuum, and the media filled it. Without his voice in the conversation, tabloids spoke for him. And the less people heard from Michael directly, the easier it became to believe whatever was said about him. The most damaging part of this media distortion wasn't just misinformation. It was repetition. The same themes appeared again and again. Strange, reclusive, obsessive, unsettling. Eventually, people stopped questioning them. When a narrative is repeated long enough, it stops sounding like opinion and starts sounding like truth. By the time the 2000s arrived, the myth had hardened. Michael Jackson wasn't just seen as eccentric. He was seen as untrustworthy and unnerving. And that image didn't form because of direct knowledge or personal experience. It formed because the media taught people how to see him. Ironically, the same media that turned Michael into a spectacle later mourned him as a legend. But by then, the damage had been done. The fear-based image lingered, even after facts emerged, even after context was restored. And when you combine a distorted media image with intentional horror aesthetics, dramatic stage personas, and relentless mockery, the line between art and fear becomes almost impossible for the public to separate. 3. He chose horror aesthetics on purpose? Here's something that often gets overlooked. Michael Jackson intentionally leaned into spooky imagery. This wasn't accidental. Think about Thriller, Ghost, the noir menace of Smooth Criminal. the surreal visuals of Leave Me Alone, the aggressive edge of bad. Michael loved cinema. He loved drama. He loved transforming himself for storytelling. But for younger audiences or people who only knew him through Thriller, that horror imagery became their entire reference point. If your first exposure to Michael Jackson was him turning into a werewolf or zombie, of course you might think he was scary. For jokes cemented the narrative. By the time many people formed their opinion of Michael Jackson, they didn't learn about him through music, interviews, or history. They learned about him through jokes. And once humor becomes the primary lens through which someone is viewed, reality doesn't stand much of a chance. For a large portion of younger audiences, especially those born in the late 90s and early 2000s, Michael Jackson wasn't first encountered as the artist behind Off the Wall, the performer who changed music videos forever, the songwriter behind Human Nature or Man in the Mirror. He was first encountered as a parody. Animated shows, late-night sketches, and internet memes introduced a version of Michael that was exaggerated, distorted, and stripped of context. When parody is your introduction, it becomes your baseline. Shows like South Park, Family Guy, Mad TV, and films like Scary Movie and the other parody movies and television shows that followed used Michael Jackson as shorthand for weird or unsettling, often depicting him as creepy and predatory towards children. Comedy relies on exaggeration, but in Michael's case, exaggeration turned into definition. The jokes weren't about his music, talent, or innovation. They were about his voice, his appearance, his isolation, his perceived oddness. Over time, the repetition taught audiences how to see him. Psychologically, humor is powerful. People remember jokes more easily than explanations. They repeat punchlines more than corrections. So even when rumors were debunked, stories were clarified, legal outcomes were resolved, the jokes remained, because jokes feel harmless, but they shape belief. As the internet matured, Michael Jackson became meme material. Still frames, reaction GIFs, out-of-context clips, photos edited for shock or humor. And as of recently, creepypastas and games such as the Iowa Key, each one removed another layer of humanity. The internet thrives on simplification, and Michael's complexity didn't fit easily into that system. So he was reduced to symbols: the glove, the whispery voice, the stare, the face. Symbols are easier to mock than people. Here's what made this especially damaging. Many people who laughed at the jokes had never actually engaged with Michael's work. They inherited the image secondhand. So when asked why Michael Jackson seemed creepy, the answer wasn't based on evidence or experience. It was based on cultural memory, passed down through humor. A narrative learned through laughter feels safe, but it can still be deeply misleading. When someone becomes a punchline, empathy decreases, curiosity fades, nuance disappears. Michael stopped being a human being in public discourse and became a reference. That distance made it easier for fear, suspicion, or discomfort to exist without challenge. The irony is that Michael Jackson was deeply sensitive to ridicule. He was hurt by jokes, caricatures, and public mockery. Yet the culture that laughed at him often justified it by saying, if he didn't want attention, he shouldn't be famous. That logic ignores the reality of someone who became famous as a child, without consent, and never escaped the spotlight. Because when jokes replace understanding, they don't just misrepresent one person, they rewrite history. Michael Jackson's legacy for many became a vibe, a meme, a punchline, instead of the truth. A revolutionary artist, shaped by trauma, brilliance, and impossible scrutiny. And when parody becomes memory, fear and misunderstanding don't feel learned. They feel inherited. Here's the part that gets lost. Millions of people who met Michael Jackson described him as kind, gentle, thoughtful, soft-hearted. Fans didn't see a monster. They saw a deeply sensitive artist shaped and scarred by fame. The idea that Michael was scary says far more about media manipulation, cultural discomfort with difference, fear of change, and society's tendency to dehumanize icons. than it ever did about Michael himself. Michael Jackson wasn't scary. He was misunderstood, mythologized, and turned into a symbol people didn't know how to process. And when society doesn't know how to understand someone, it often chooses fear instead. But that's it for now. Thank you all so much for watching and listening to this analysis. If you enjoyed it, make sure to drop a like. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts on why people thought Michael was scary, and if you yourself were scared when you were younger and what made you stop. And of course, subscribe for more stories and MJ tribute content. I'm Mr. Escape. Stay safe, stay kind, and I'll see you in the next one.